Hello. Am I on? I'm on. Thank you, Vic. Appreciate it. All right. Good evening, everybody. We're going to call the meeting to order this evening on the 30th at 6:30 p.m. and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Ziegler's ready to go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, any agenda changes, Celeste? Okay. We're going to begin this evening with a presentation from our Hall of Fame committee regarding the website and the process of nominating. So Christine Lukides will be giving that presentation. Thank you, Christine.
Ah, wonderful. That was simple, too. Thank you. All right. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank the Board of Education for the opportunity to present information about the Duanesburg Hall of Fame and for their role in introducing the recent inductees. Dr. Niedermeyer restarted our attention to the Hall of Fame by creating this living document about our school history and achievements. The collection of photos, biographies, and achievements creates a real sense of history for the school. The Hall of Fame can be viewed in a TV monitor by the high school gym, as well as right there on the DCS homepage. Dr. Niedermeyer appointed a committee to formalize the process for Hall of Fame nominations and inductions. Committee members include Tony Amorosi, retired teacher, coach, and current Board of Ed member; Lou DeFilippo, retired business administrator, superintendent, and other administrative roles; Christopher Wyansky, retired teacher and coach; current student Brooke Grenier, and it's always nice to have that young perspective on any committee; and me, Christina Lukides, parent and former board member. As planned by the committee, the board began this school year with a Hall of Fame induction ceremony at their September meeting. Honestly, it was a delightful way to start the school year. Friends and family gathered to honor the inductees and recognize their contributions as staff members and the achievements as alumni from this school. It was a welcoming and warm event, a true showcase of what this school can produce. As we fine-tune the induction ceremony procedure, we hope to create a method for highlighting the event during the school day as an inspirational kickoff to the student school year. Our goal is to continue this recognition of staff and alumni through the nomination process included in the Hall of Fame link. The link is right down there, okay? Right there it is on the home page, and if you click on it, you get these things. And they're up here as well: awards, Staff Hall of Fame, Alumni Hall of Fame, DCS timeline, and nominations. The awards up here list current student achievements, and it's always wonderful to see what kids are doing in the school, like as it's happening. Staff and alumni inductees, so you get pictures and bios of their achievements. A DCS timeline, which I think is actually under construction at the moment. It had a bunch of pictures of the history of the school. I think it needs to be fixed. And then finally, nominations. And here's where you all come in. By selecting nominations, there it is. That's it. You see the nominating criteria right there for staff and for alumni, and the committee process, how we do this. In the interest of time, I'm not reading this, but you can see that it's pretty straightforward and is all connected with what the school has already established in terms of district priorities and Eagle Pride. And if you scroll down, can I do that here? There it is. There's the nomination form. It's bigger than that, but there it is. It's the nomination for it. Again, it's pretty straightforward when you look at it. Nominations could be made by anyone, with experience with the school, as long as the nominee fits the criteria that are listed there. And please be sure to include as much information as possible about your nomination to help the committee get a full picture of that person's qualifications. It is the Hall of Fame Committee's hope that folks take a moment to submit the names of staff and alumni who demonstrate the qualities that we have listed there. We know there are staff who inspire and guide students on a regular basis. We know there are alumni who have achieved good things in part due to the education and guidance they received here in this school. We want to hear from you. We want to honor these folks who have worked hard and dedicated their time to our DCS community. We want to add to the Hall of Fame in a way that respects the past, recognizes the present, and hopefully inspires the future. Together, we can add to this Hall of Fame showcase for our DCS Eagle Pride. Thank you very much. And I hope people do. Thank you. Do I just X out of that? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina. I appreciate that information. And yes, anybody talking about great people in our community that were part of the DCS community and you think they're worthy of nomination, please head there and do that. Okay, we're skipping the privilege of the floor because no one signed in to make a comment. But before I do that, is there anyone that had wanted to but didn't have an opportunity to sign in? Okay. Then we will move right on to reports and updates, and we will start with Mr. Rivenberg.
All right, so this is actually probably the earliest I think we've ever had a budget work session. So our first budget work session typically is not in January. So starting off, our budget is, you'll see that I don't have as many numbers as I usually do on the first section, first work session. So first of all, I'll just bring to your attention where we are right now in our current year versus last year at this time. So this is just a look at, we have actually increased our expenditures over, from last year to this year. So this is, you can see in most categories, we've actually, we are spending more. So even, as we increased our budget, it's definitely justified because we are spending that money. So currently our budget progress is, we've had our first run with the governor's proposal with the 3.5% decrease in foundation aid. More on that later. So also our tax cap is in draft mode right now. I need one more number to really solidify that and I'll get more on that later. What we've done right now is I've rolled over the budget and we've got a starting point. So working on what things we need, what things we can carry over, and then we're going to begin determining any carryover needs and potential cuts. This is a look at what our revenue looks like, and this is kind of like a draft of, the percentages of where our revenue comes from for our budget. And it usually ranges from like 46 to 47 or 48% for both our state aid and our tax levy. So this is just kind of a look at a draft of what next year could look like, and balancing that budget with fund balance as well. So again, this is just a draft, a look at where we are here in January 30th. The state aid as of January 16th. This is to show the governor has proposed that negative $188,000 in the foundation aid. And then, but you can see also several of our other categories, our expense-driven aids are actually, they're doing well. So while transportation is slightly down, it was in the ballpark from our actual overall, from last year. So if we were flat with our foundation aid, we would be kind of where we're at right now with this year. So our state aid, if that 188 comes back up to zero, then we've got pretty much the same state aid now amounts that we have for the 23-24 school year. So we have a couple different views of the foundation aid. Of course, that's the governor's budget was the $5.1 million proposal for foundation aid. But we have current law, right, which is Save Harmless. Save Harmless will bring us back up to $5.3 million, which is the same amount that we had for the 23-24 school year. Well, right now the speculation is that you really can't take that away. So right now, in talking with Jeff, we are assuming that we are going to eventually get this money back once the legislator and the governor make some kind of an agreement. And we don't know, like maybe we might get some kind of bonus money after that. Fingers crossed, that'd be awesome. Yeah, so this goes back to the last presentation too, is that Save Harmless, there's over 300 districts in in New York State that because of enrollment, because of conditions in the district, New York State came out with this law to make sure that the district continued to have the amount of money that they need to continue with, I guess, with inflation or the cost of doing business. So this law allows it to basically sit tight and not take away money. So over the past 3 years, we actually had a 3% increase for the next 3 years to actually give us back all of our foundation aid that we were owed from years ago. It made us whole, so making us whole would be the $5.3 million. Okay, no problem. So this is just a look at our tax levy history over the past few years, and you can see that I did not include the 24-25 school year yet because we really don't know where we're gonna be yet. The 23-24 school year, we increased our taxes at 2.43%, which brought up our total tax levy at about $207,000. You can see over the past several years, we've really been increasing our tax levy at 2% or less, with the exception of the 23-24 school year. And of course, it was because we did see this fiscal cliff that could be evolving. Tax cap right now is in first draft really at 2.75%. So this is what we would actually be allowed at maximum to go out to, which allows us a $240,268. So this is pretty close to where we were for 23-24 school year. So as we continue to develop the budget, we'll have to determine where we're going to be. But we've got some flexibility here to make sure that we balance the budget if we do have some shortfalls, especially with the foundation aid. So when we do consider the tax levy, there's a few things that we do need to consider. Number one is going to be state aid and how do we balance any gaps that we have there. Of course, we need to look forward to future budgets. So at the last board meeting, I'd actually talked about some of our long range plans and where we have to be. So we have to continue to try and plan also to maintain long-term savings. So we had that reserve fund that is really going to help our capital project, and we can continue to maintain our facilities. And then in years when we really need it, there's other reserve funds like ERS and TRS funds, insurance funds that will help us to balance the budget with reserves to fill some of those gaps as well. We're gonna also, of course, we need to continue to support academic opportunities for kids. So we need to look forward to making sure that we provide as many opportunities that we can without cutting all kinds of opportunities that they do get already. So during the budget process, we'll be talking about these 6 subjects. A couple of these sections will actually be diving in a little bit deeper than others. The general support budget, which we're going to talk about tonight, academic programs or instructional, operations and maintenance, pupil transportation, employee benefits, and debt service. So this is just a look also, and some of these categories are much bigger than others. For instance, the instructional side is almost 50% of our budget. So we're going to have a couple conversations about the things that go into the instructional budget. The general support budget, which is 5.75% of the budget, we're going to actually talk about that tonight. But the second largest, of course, is medical and benefits. Any school district, the most expensive thing in their school budget is really the cost of having staff and the benefits that go along with it. So first off, the general support budget. There are many of the ongoing functions of the district that are in the general support section of the budget. Anything from Board of Education, business office expenses, the superintendent, legal matter. We also have an attorney, personnel services, data processing. So we use a lot of applications now with our district, just because we really have to in order to function in the modern world. The district is required to have insurance, not only for facilities, but our student insurance as well. So, and then we also have insurance that's covered under the transportation budget. The BOCE's administrative charge is also, or administrative budget is also falls under this general support budget. So right now, we've really just got an estimate of where we could be for the 24-25 school year. I think a couple of the major adjustments that we may see in the general support are basically just data processing, the cost of technology applications, and anything that goes along with it. We will likely see that will kind of bring it up a little bit. And last year for the 23-24 school year budget, we really didn't increase that budget that much. So we kind of have to make up for some of that, because now it shows that our expenses are meeting that budget. Contractual obligations for personnel and services. Again, this is another thing that has really come up, including recruitment, which we have to keep advertising for new staff when we need staff. So the cost of even advertising in a newspaper just seems like it's gone up. Athletics. This falls under the academic portion of the budget. So this goes from anywhere from coaches, also coaches that the district hires. That these are folks that don't work for the district but work as coaches for the district. Just some examples here in the categories of things that you could purchase that might be purchased in the athletics budget. Anything from contractual expenses, like when we send our kids to competitions, we have to pay for referees, especially when we compete in these big long day competitions. Athletic supplies. We now also use BOCEs for some of the athletic services, like the streaming service that we have. That also had gone under there. That actually, I think it's getting reduced. I think what Katie said. So more work has to be done on the athletic budget as well. So like I said, that's why it's in draft. Oh, sorry. So but the athletics budget doesn't really look like it's going to go up that much, somewhere around 2 to 3%. But some of the things that I'm seeing are that shared sports continue to rise in cost. So when we share sports with other districts, we still have to pay for each of our students to participate. We also have to pay for their transportation costs that to transport those kids back and forth to those events. there's not really transportation aid that goes with that, so we have to pay for that up front. Any contractual obligations, such as participating in some of those services, which I mentioned on the last slide. Extracurricular, this is a really small portion of our budget, but it is for any of the clubs and activities that the district, that the kids participate in. So last year, we had reduced that budget, but since then, more clubs have kind of joined on. So we have to make sure that we budget enough to cover those clubs. Instructional technology, this not only includes the technology itself, but it also includes salaries for employees that work in the technology department. So we have anywhere from computer hardware, projectors, screens. We don't seem to be buying as many projectors now. It's more screens, interactive panels that, of course, we have been buying a lot of the interactive panels on the federal grants because we were allowed to. So not as much has been coming out of the general fund for that. But again, like any of the computer supplies that need to be replaced, software and applications that any educators use comes out of this budget. And then there's a large portion of computer-aided instruction that we purchase through BOCES. And as we purchase that, of course, that balances some of it back because we get the BOCES aid the following year. So as much as we possibly can when we need services, goods and services that BOCES offers, it makes a lot of sense for us to go to BOCES and ask them first if they have it. And in some cases, BOCES might say, well, we don't have it, but we'd be interested in getting on board, or we can purchase it through another BOCES and get that aid back. Instructional technology. So one of the largest portions of increases that we might see in this category this year is that a salary has actually fallen off of a federal grant at the end of this year. So once that ends, we will have to determine how we're going to absorb that. And since it is technology-based, it makes the most sense to put it into that section. And any contractual obligations continue to increase. Of course, like I said, we offset as much as we can with expense-based aids through BOCES. So as we go through the budget, we have some goals in mind that we're going to provide an effective pre-K through 12 academic program, and of course, safe facilities and transportation for our students. As we work through the budget, we're going to determine ways to close the gaps. If we even have, well, we may have the flat foundation aid, we are still going to have to close some gaps, but we're going to work on some creative ways to try and save and get us to that point. And over the past few years, we've had that inflation factor that while it has come down, it still brought us up. So we have to try and meet that somehow. So we're going to have to try and figure out how we're going to do savings, how we're going to keep doing reserves, how we're going to balance our budget with fund balance when we need to, and then also plan for the future. So it's not just a 24-25 school year thing that we need to keep in mind. We also need to think about the next 5 years, the next 10 years. So, with that being said, we have to also think about capital projects, maintaining facilities and all that too. That being said, these are some things that we could do too, is I'm sorry. So Proposition 2 on the budget is right now proposed to be school buses. Right now we kind of working on the amounts, a maximum of 415,000. So last year we had started purchasing propane buses again, just to be a cleaner fuel. It seems to be working out. The propane buses actually do get good gas mileage or good fuel mileage. So again, it would be another purchase of a 71 passenger school bus, which allows us an extended fuel tank, allows the kids to go on field trips, allows them to go on sports trips, and of course is less harmful to the environment. The next one is just one of our small 30 passenger buses. And then the third one, we're still kind of working with a transportation supervisor. We're trying to come up with a third bus that maybe is smaller than what we've been purchasing, a little more fuel efficient and also allows us to get to take 1 or 2 students on trips. When we have all these outplay students, it would be much more efficient to maybe take one of the smaller buses. And we also have found that we'd like this vehicle to be all-wheel drive for obvious reasons, right? So there have been situations where we have to pull out the Suburbans and have them meet our school buses on certain roads because we have to relay them up the road. There's a few, as I'm sure many of you are aware, there's a few roads that are just something you wouldn't want to take a 65-passenger school bus on when it looks like it did the other day. So something with all-wheel drive so we can get the kids home safely. That's what we're kind of looking at, and we're hoping that we're working with our vendor to try and see if we can come up with something that is going to work for us. And also, as the rule had been brought to our attention a couple of years ago, is that you can have a coach drive a bus that is 15 passenger or less. So we would maybe hopefully be looking at something that would only be that maximum level so that we could use that for maybe trips that a coach can maybe just hop in the bus when we're shortage of, because we have a shortage of drivers. Like this has been going on for years. And there's no sign of it letting up. So as we bring somebody on, another one decides that they're going to leave. So we got to try and combat that somehow. Another proposition that I'd like to recommend is that another capital reserve fund be started. Whether it's used this year or next year or not, that just depends on how we finish out the year. But we can see how the capital reserve fund that we've currently got for the Centennial Project is helping us to do a lot more and not have the district have to borrow that much more. And we're not borrowing $6 million for the capital project. It's all sitting there, it's gaining interest, and it's ready to go. So we don't have to borrow that. So this would be great to actually, this is what I was talking about, planning for long term, for 7 to 8 years down the road, or maybe 10 years, whatever the case may be for our next capital project. And Board of Education discussion. Questions, comments?
Anyone have any questions for Jeff?
Sure.
Is this on? Okay. I was just wondering, for the buses, will we be replacing other buses, or is this in addition to?
It would be replacement. So
Okay.
as our part of our replacement plan, we have a 10-year replacement plan.
Right.
So we have 30 buses on our fleet. So every 10 years, it makes sense to replace 3 buses. They typically will really show their rust at about 10 years.
Yep. Okay.
And then DOT has a lot of regulations. It's not as easy as passing a car and inspection. There's a lot of critical points of a bus inspection that we have to obviously send them down the road and
Okay.
replace them.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeff, quick question. So if
Sure.
for that smaller vehicle, that would then not require a special license to drive because it's a smaller vehicle? A coach could use their normal
Correct.
driver's license?
That is correct.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay.
Yours didn't get hooked up.
This is a small question. It's slide 15 was talking about shared sports continue to rise in cost.
Yep.
What's driving that? Only because when I see shared, I think maybe there's some cost benefits, but not.
So it depends. What I'm taking a first look at, it depends, I think, on enrollment.
Okay.
If we don't have, or if we have a lot of students participating, and if another district has few,
Okay.
and if they host it, then we're not really, we don't seem to be saving anything.
Okay.
So another thing that we need to think about too is if we're sharing a sport, And if coach costs are different in the other district, we also should consider that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jeff, as always. Very clear, helpful. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Okay, that's it for reports, I think, yeah? All right. We're going to move to presentation of minutes. All right. Recommendation that the Board of Education accept the meeting minutes from the January 9th, 2024 meeting as submitted. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Francis. Second, Avis. Thank you, Avis. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next, moving on to committee meetings. If I'm not mistaken, policy met today. Is that right? Okay.
Yes, we met today. I'm going to read because we had quite a few policies. So we met tonight. Some policies only require revisions. So policy 5130 is a budget adoption, added a contingency budget clause. So small change there. Policy 5140, there was a section removed where report that is no longer required. So that section was just striked. Policy 7440, student voter registration and pre-registration, was updated to adhere to New York State law. So those are revisions. But then we'll have a couple coming up where we'll do a first and a second read of at our next meeting. We'll start probably with the first read. Policy 7350 added timeout and physical restraint to the corporal punishment and emergency interventions policy. Yeah, 7350. And that's according to Erie policy writing subscription that we'll be adding. Yeah, it's quite a big one. Yep. Policy 3441, the use of therapy dogs in school, and policy 6190, workplace violence prevention policy, and that's adhering to New York State requirements. 6190. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for meeting and explaining that, and we will see some of that next time, it sounds like. No other committee meetings, correct? Okay, moving on to financial. Accept financial reports. Recommendation that the Board of Education accept the following financial items as provided and recommended by the Treasurer and Assistant Superintendent of Management Services. They are as follows: appropriation status, budget transfer, revenue status, and Treasurer's reports ending 12/31/2023. General warrant A21 in the amount of $376,105.17, and capital warrant HB2 in the amount of $235,391.45, both dated 1/17/24. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Alyssa. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tony. Any comments or questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Next item, accept management letter. Recommendation that the Board of Education accept the 2022-2023 management letter as recommended by the Assistant Superintendent of Management Services. The Board accepted the 2022-2023 annual audit on November 14th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Tony.
Teresa.
Teresa, sorry.
It's T.
A second? Thank you, Sarah. Comments or questions? Jeff, so this is just the letter that goes with what we've already. Okay. All right.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
We needed to make it correct. We sent the right letter, but they wanted a date in it.
Okay.
So we had to send a new letter with a date, but in order to send a new letter, you have to approve the new letter.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, next item, accept revised management response letter.
Right.
Wait a minute.
That's this one.
That's the new one. Right, that's
Yeah.
this one. Okay. Now we know. Recommendation that the Board of Education accept the 2022-2023 revised management letter response corrective action plan as recommended by the Assistant Superintendent of Management Services. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Tony. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Francis. Comments or questions on this one? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Next item, accept and approve playground proposal. Recommendation that the Board of Education accept and approve the playground proposal between Landscape Structures, Inc. and Dwaynesburg Central School District for the capital project as recommended by the Superintendent and Assistant Superintendent of Management Services. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Alyssa. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Francis. Comments or questions on this? Only that it makes me happy to
Yes.
continue moving forward on our playground.
I will add that this is actually, this pricing through this is actually through New York State's contract. So that's why it doesn't, we're not accepting a bid, we're accepting a quote that is based off of a New York State contract. Because it has already been competitively priced out.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Next item, approve agreement with Vanderheiden. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve the agreement between Vanderheiden and Dwaynesburg Central School District for student services between January 16th, 2024 and June 26th, 2024, as recommended by the Assistant Superintendent of Management Services. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Avis. A second? Thank you, Sarah. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Boy, we are flying this evening. Okay. Next item under other. Approve merger resolution for football program. Oh goodness, I have to read this whole thing. Whereas the Dwaynesburg Central School Board of Education supports, fosters, encourages, and strives to provide interscholastic competition in a broad array of sports for all students at Dwaynesburg Central School. Whereas the 2024-2025 football season, therefore, be it resolved, Dwaynesburg Central School Board of Education hereby approves and endorses the participation and inclusion of Notre Dame Bishop Gibbons students in the formation of the Helderberg Valley football program in partnership with Bern Knox Westerlo and Dwaynesburg Central Schools. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Oh,
Oh, it's tight.
ooh,
I can second.
okay, Sarah
Happy to
and
second.
Teresa is the
Mhm.
second. I'm just gonna let you say something about this, Jeff.
So what you're doing right now is you're just approving a letter to be sent to Section 2 that's indicating that we are okay with the potential of a three-school merger.
Of the football program.
Just for the football program. Correct. There's a lot of details that still need to be hammered out on this. I have been in conversation with Mr. Mundell, yeah, with Tim at Bern Knox about this, since they're our original merger school. Having three schools as a merger is a delicate balance. There's, right, especially in this situation. So he and I wanted to make sure we were both on the same page with this. When it was first proposed to me, that was my first call, was to make sure that Bern was on board with all this also, before I was going to allow you all to say this is something that we're at least willing to explore. Okay, so this is allowing us to send a letter to Section 2 basically saying that, hey, we are interested in doing this, right? We still got to get approval from Section 2 or it's a moot issue, right? But we're willing to do this, and we're willing to kind of pound out some of the details so that we have a better understanding of how this is actually going to work. A number of questions obviously are going to come up: where, who, all of those types of things. If it goes through, prior to that actually happening, we'll have those answers for you, because I don't necessarily want to approve anything unless the nuts and bolts are all there too, right? There's no sense in doing this or saying we're going to do this unless we're willing to put the work in to make sure that this actually happens and that we benefit from it. That's the ultimate goal.
Great, thank you. So if I understand correctly, this is to allow that conversation to move forward.
That is correct.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions or comments?
I just have a question.
Go
I
ahead,
mean, with some of our other mergers, it's actually put us into a different class. If we merge 3, will that put us up above the number so that we have to compete at a level that we really shouldn't be competing at?
No, again, right? I want this merger to allow us to be successful. I don't want to keep a merger, I don't want to add another school so that all of a sudden we jump into a classification and get clobbered every time, right? We already struggle in some cases with our mergers.
I know.
And we're not necessarily as competitive as we would like to be. The last thing I'm going to do is make us less competitive, okay? The goal would be is that this helps us become more competitive in our present classification status. So again, although I can't answer that question exactly for sure because classification numbers haven't come out per se as far as sports seasons are concerned, but if this were to bump us up to a division where we're going to get hammered on, we can remove ourselves from this situation.
That's all.
Any other questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, moving to personnel. First item is to accept resignations. Recommendation that the Board of Education accept the following resignations. Mackenzie Ryan, elementary school music assistant for the 2023-2024 school year. Just to note that she's appointed as the director in the next item. Next item is, the next personnel person is Gary Chizinski. I was super
Well
close.
done.
Bus monitor, substitute bus garage mechanic, effective 1/19/24, and Tanya McMillan, full-time cleaner, effective 2/2/24. And she will also be reappointed as part-time in the next item. Do I have a motion?
I'll
Oh.
motion.
Thank you, Tony. A second?
I'll second.
Francis, thank you. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Next item, approve appointments. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve the following appointments as recommended by the superintendent, elementary school principal, and assistant superintendent of management services. ECA appointments are for the applicable 2023-2024 school year. All appointments are employees at will. An appointment at this time does not guarantee employment for the entire school year. Mackenzie Ryan for musical director, Mike Goffier for musical assistant, Devin Colucci Maggi, part-time bus aide, Tanya McMillan, part-time cleaner, and John Benway, full-time cleaner. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Avis. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Alyssa. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. At this time, we are going to move to we're going to make a motion to move to an executive session to discuss personnel matters. We will not be returning to the public meeting. So do I have a motion to move to executive session?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Teresa. A second? Avis, thank you very much. Everyone, thank you for being here this evening. Drive safely, and we'll see you next time.
It was streaming on YouTube. I did check.
Oh, nice. So the thing is working.
It is working.
That's awesome.
But I think it means we either have to shut off the computer or shut off just the live stream. But I'm willing to
the
do
whole
either.
thing, it was streaming the whole time?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if it was the whole time or